Well, hello there, guys. So this month, May, is not only Mental Health Awareness Month, but it is also Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome Awareness Month. So if you guys have been following me since Arianna's pregnancy, then you know that I was diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome, hypermobility type, or they've just renamed it so it's like HEDS type. Confusing. Anyways, I was just diagnosed with hypermobility type in my pregnancy with Arianna. So I'm going to give you guys kind of an overview synopsis of Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome, tell you guys what I in particular suffer with, what signs were there that made me get tested, and just kind of like, I don't know, a little just hindsight overview, EDS. So let's talk about it. Okay, so starting off with Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome is a connective tissue disorder. So because it affects your connective tissue actually has a huge effect on every area of your body. So you will usually find that those with Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome have other things connected with it, like POTS, which is like a form of dysautonomia. Some have mast cell activation syndrome. There are some of them that have feeding tubes, and there are several different types of Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome. So I am going to dive into hypermobility, and specifically I'm going to talk about my case. Thankfully, I do not have a very severe case of Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome. For that, I am extremely, extremely thankful. For a lot of others, my age and younger, they have gone through surgeries, they are in wheelchairs, they wear neck braces. There are a lot of issues that can stem from Ehlers-Danlos, and it definitely is on a bit of like a spectrum with the severity of that particular case for someone. So the only reason I actually got tested for EDS was because of one of you guys. So Sarah is actually a viewer of ours on my vlog channel, It's Us, and she had commented, I have no idea when it was, but she said that she had heard some of the things that I mentioned with my arms constantly popping out and other things that I had mentioned in past with things that I struggle with, and she said that it sounded a lot like Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome. Now, if you are a YouTube creator, then you probably know people try to diagnose you with stuff quite a bit. And so when I get those kind of comments, a lot of times I do brush them aside just because I get so many of them, and a lot of people don't know like a full roundabout case of what's going on. And so sometimes they are like trying to diagnose me with something that's way unrelated. This particular comment that Sarah had left, I decided to look into it. So I just did a Google search, looked at the side effects of Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome, and I was like, wow, you know, that kind of sounds like my entire life. So when I was pregnant with Ari, I actually had to go see a genetic counselor, a maternal fetal medicine genetic counselor, because I had a hole in my heart when I was younger. So they wanted to do some extra testing, and she had asked me about genetic things, and I mentioned the possibility of me having this syndrome. So she sent me over to a geneticist right away because Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome can have quite a bad effect on pregnancy as well. There's a lot of things that can make you high risk, so like chances of your membranes rupturing earlier. With me, I had like crazy amounts of dislocations with my hips because of it. So she sent me right over to be tested by a geneticist, and so she tested me. She did the blood work for the more serious types of Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome. They have not found the genetic link yet for the hypermobility type, and so because I came back negative, she was very certain I was hypermobility type, but because I came back negative from that genetic screening, she then knew for certain that that was the type that I had. So during my pregnancy, I didn't do anything to try and get further into my diagnosis. It is considered a rare like medical disease. Not a lot of people have it, and so also not a lot of doctors know about it. And finding doctors to even treat you is very difficult because, like I said, it's a spectrum type disorder. There is no one size fits all. You are not a walk-in, oh, this person has strep throat. All I need to do is give them this medication and they'll be better. There are a lot of doctors out there that prefer those type of medical cases, and they don't want to treat patients that are trial and error and an unknown how to treat type of person. And so some doctors will even just outright refuse to treat us. So I was very lucky to find my doctor here, and the fact that my doctors as a whole actually know about it was quite like crazy chances. So I have been able to get in with my rheumatologist. I am going to be getting in with a neurologist soon. I have a cardiologist because I ended up with tachycardia. I have been very, very lucky in that aspect. to be able to get the doctors that I need, but that is not normal at all. So signs and symptoms. The biggest thing with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome of pretty much any type is subluxations or dislocations of your joints because it affects your connective tissue, which means your ligaments. People with EDS tend to subluxate or completely dislocate their joints really frequently. So since I was a little kid, I constantly dislocated my shoulders and my elbows to the point that my doctor just had to teach my mom how to put my joints back in because she couldn't pay to be taking me in as often as she needed to. So it got to a point where my mom's like, Crystal, you can't swing your sister around in a circle anymore because her arms will just keep coming out. So I just always had this issue. And it just grew to be normal to me. And so now as an adult, I just have issues with subluxations, not dislocations anymore. So my joints just constantly pop in and out. My fingers, like my kids holding onto my fingers, they start to pop out. My shoulders are the biggest thing, like trying to reach for stuff. I know I can reach things if I just let my arms subluxate a little bit. And so sometimes I'll like try to reach something and I'm like, I know I can reach it if I just go like a little bit further. And so I'll keep trying to reach it and my arm will start coming out and I'm like, Arianna, it's like 2 centimeters away. It's okay. Just go a little bit further. So I shouldn't be doing that. But I am extremely hypermobile and so I can reach in places that like shouldn't be able to. When I was younger, I would constantly like turn my arms all the way around and freak my friends out. I could lick my elbow, my nose, things like that. Or like if you look at my fingers, if you see how they go up like this, you see how they go like this? Those are signs of it. Like being able to touch my thumb to my forearm, stretchy skin, bruising easily. That was another big thing, is I have always had unexplained bruises for no apparent reason and didn't understand why. That is a sign of EDS. So one of the biggest things I struggled with in high school, it started in the beginning of high school, I think, still have it till this day, is I would randomly get what felt like mini heart attacks in my heart, obviously. And I had tons of tests, saw cardiologists several times, wore a heart monitor, like one of those big heavy duty ones, and they found nothing. And so when I met with the geneticist and she was asking me like all these things, she told me, tell me everything weird that you have ever had happen to you. I mentioned this and she said that is straight up EDS. It has to do with your ligaments, I guess, around your heart contracting in some way or something like that. And so it literally feels like a heart attack. But it's like right below my boob or to the side here. It's really painful and it can be worse with breathing too. Not fun. But when in high school it would start with just like it happened for a second or two and then it'd go away. But it happened several times a day. And then when I got out of high school, it started being like longer periods of time, like a couple minutes it would happen. I am glad now that I have an actual answer for why that happens, because I was just to a point where I was like, you know what? Doctors didn't find anything, but I'm sure I'm just going to peel over at 50 and die and there's nothing I can do about it because these feel like heart attacks. But now I know they are not. So that's good. The other signs that I had is scoliosis. I have had scoliosis for quite some time. I was diagnosed with it when I was around 12, I think. And I have the start of degenerative disc disease, which that is definitely something very commonly seen. Degenerative disc disease is very commonly seen with people with EDS. I have not ever been diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome. I don't know why. Like, I would think that I would have been. I, at random periods for, it'll be 2 or 3 weeks at a time, where everything makes me sick. No matter what I eat, I end up on the toilet. And I never knew why this was happening. I saw my family doctor several times about it. She tried treating for acid reflux. She tried treating for several different things. And she was never able to figure out what it was. I removed things from my diet. And like I said, it didn't matter what I ate. And it still happens to this day. It just happened probably last time was a month or so ago. Where literally for a week to 3 weeks, everything landed me on the toilet within 10 minutes. Didn't matter what it was. And so that also has to do with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Along with that, pregnancy has a big, big toll on EDS. So my joints have gotten much worse at subluxating. My hips come out all the time. I mean, even something as simple as just rolling over in bed from one side to the other, my hip will start to come out. I'm going to be starting physical therapy soon, and that's going to help a lot with that. It's just, you need to tighten the areas. And unfortunately, You can treat the individual things that Ehlers-Danlos may cause. If you have POTS or some other sort of dysautonomia, you can get that treated on its own individually. There are some surgeries for those that have really bad dislocations. I know some people, like, they're almost as if like their spine and their neck dislocates, and so they can't breathe when it does it. And so there's people that have had surgery for that. Some people need feeding tubes because, especially if they have mast cell activation syndrome, that can cause big issues that land them into having feeding tubes, as far as I understand. So you can treat the individual things that Ehlers-Danlos syndrome causes, but like the dislocations and those type of things, there isn't, besides like surgeries for some cases, there isn't anything you can do besides try to strengthen up those areas as best you can. I think that I told you guys pretty much everything. I'm sure that I left some things out of there. But that's going to be it. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I do still have doctor's appointments. I will still have things being figured out. Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is a long journey and process. I explained it once in a vlog that every doctor's visit, you get a piece to your puzzle. The puzzle may never, probably will never be completed, but you still get one more piece, and it's a little bit more exciting. Not that you're excited to get some kind of diagnosis, but it's very common that people before getting their EDS diagnosis are diagnosed as hypochondriacs. And so getting an answer as to why you have not felt good, or why you have felt for years like something is off and you don't know what, and you finally have an answer, and each time you see a doctor you get another puzzle piece of an answer of why you have felt like some other way in your past. It's exciting for us because we finally have answers. Even if we never get the full puzzle completed, I get a little bit more completed, and that makes me happy. So it's a long process. Like I said, it may never be completed, but I'm okay with that as long as I'm adding some extra puzzle pieces along the way. So I'm going to leave it at that. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any other questions, leave them down in the comments below. I'll give it a couple days, and if there's enough questions, I'll just do a Q&A video on it. And if there's not, if there's just a few, then I will answer back to you guys. So I'm going to leave it at that. I think I already said that like 6 times. I will see you guys next week. Bye.